Hello everyone. So in the last video, we tried to set up a virtual environment out there, and so today we are trying to create a new Flask API in that virtual environment in your VS Code. So let's set it up. So first, to start with any project, as I mentioned in the last video, that we need to create a virtual environment. It's not mandatory, but this is how we will move ahead. So Python -m. So for this I'll just rename it as Flask env. In Flask env, how do you activate? So it was source Flask env /bin/activate. So now we have activated our Flask environment. See, this has been created here. So what we need to do is we are importing so we are using Flask and Pandas out here. So what we need to do, we need to install both of them. So we will do pip install Flask Pandas. Yeah, so both of them have been installed now. So what we need to do is in the first thing we need to import Flask. So from Flask import Flask. This is our the Flask object that is there. Now request we are using in later part to get the request JSON in the post API. So today we are going to create 3 APIs. The first API is to just a hello world thing. That's to show you how the get method works in Flask API, and the second API is a post API that we will see how we'll take input from an user in a Flask API, and then we'll return back some output to the user. And the third API will try to upload a file and then read something from it. Okay, so first one, so what we are doing is the first is we'll create a app object, a Flask object, that is app equal to Flask. Then from that app.route, so this is the basically where you define your endpoint. So this is the root endpoint for me, so we are not mentioning anything. So get method is to retrieve any information from that API. So in this API we just returning back the message. So let's run it. I have already written the code. So let's run this API. So how do you run this Flask API? It's basically Python app.py. So Flask API takes some time, a little bit to run for the first time, and then you will be fine. So to check it out in your browser, you can do a control click and see the output. So the output is message hello world. So this is your output thing. Swagger inbuilt in Fast API it is there, but in Flask it is not there. So we will, when we do Fast API, we will see that also. Okay, so let's see if you want to check the output in Postman. So we'll go to open Postman, and then in Postman we'll hit it. We'll hit the send button. Yeah, so we are getting the output here also. So message is message hello world. So now let's go to the second API that we have created. So that second API is basically an API wherein we are taking some input from the user. So input is sending a JSON. So how do you write a post API? We just write app.root, then we create your endpoint. So my endpoint name is square. So just I want to take an input number and then return back a square of that number. So what I'm doing is methods you need to put at post, and then write down that function, read that JSON. So this is the request.get JSON, the function for reading that JSON part. So from that JSON, this data will be a type of dictionary, and the number is basically what we are doing in this line is we are reading this number, whatever dictionary in the data dictionary, key number is a key. So this number we are getting from this particular data key, and then we are squaring that number and returning that back. Okay, so let's see how it works here. So in the next tab we have Postman. While you are testing an API for a post function, you just need to go to body. In the body you go to raw, and then you go to JSON from the drop down. So initially it will be text, but you need to go to JSON, select JSON, and then type your number. So type, if you want to type any number out here, and then test it out. So see, the square of 25 is 625. So basically you can just test it out anything. You can maybe have -9. So that is 81, right? So this is working now. So the post API is basically and if you want to see if you're testing a particular API and if you want to see like how you can give the input for this, like if you want to have the curl also, just go to the code function here, and you can find like from the drop down, if you want to have it for Python, and if you want to give it to someone else, you just copy this thing and send it to the someone who wants to use your API, right? So this is the second API. Let's move to the third API. So third API is where we have tried to upload a CSV, and that CSV will be read in the file, and we'll try to send back some input to the user. So in this CSV, so what I have done is I have taken a simple dummy data CSV, which is basically having name and city as a column name, and name is Rahul and Amit, and city is Delhi and Gurgaon. So let's see whether we are able to read this particular CSV or not. So to read any Python file, to read any CSV file in Flask, what you need to do, you just need to read the files as request.file. So this will be a request that is sent by the user. So to read, so this file is the key name that we will have in our Postman. So in the Postman, see, when we go to the body part, so this is the key name, how we will put it out there, and we are sending a seat out here. So let's see. So what we are doing, file is request.files, and then this is the file name, that is file. So if file is present, then what we will do, we'll read the file, CSV file from pandas, and we'll do a pd.read CSV from that file. And after reading that, we are just having that data, and then we're printing that head of that BF also, just to see it here. So it will be coming somewhere here. It might have come. We'll check. Just a minute. Yeah. When we it will come when we hit the file. So let's see how. So this is our dummy data. So we'll remove it out. New file from local machine. So that this is dummy data set 1. Open it out here, and then send it. So see, we are getting the city name as Delhi, because the written part what we have done is we have done basically we have given a dictionary. This dictionary is always converted into JSON in the output format. So from that dictionary, we are getting that from the city column, we are getting the first value. The first value was Delhi. So it is now coming as Delhi, right? So this is how you can upload a file. You can upload a file in Flask API and then read it out. I hope you have liked my tutorial today, and do like, share and subscribe the channel, and we'll create some more content, mostly in the machine learning part that we will be creating. So I have just started with the Flask API, so that in the future, whenever we create any classification API or regression API, you will be able to understand what we are trying to do out here. Thank you very much.